This is the World Test Center for Pirelli motorcycle tires in Giarre, Sicily, and I've just spent the last 48 hours on the ultimate adventure motorcycle shootout. From the narrow streets of medieval cities to highways, river washes, and mountaintops. I rode the BMW R1200 GS, the KTM 1190 Adventure, Honda's brand new Africa Twin, and the latest from Ducati, the Multistrada 1200 Enduro. To find out which one of these bikes would come out as the top adventure motorcycle, I put them to the test. To keep things on an even playing field, each of the adventure machines was outfitted with the same tires. On the road, the bikes wore Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2s, and for the off-road section, we ripped up the trails around the active volcano on Mount Etna on the off-road inspired Pirelli Scorpion Rally tires. Taking a closer look at our four competitors in the adventure bike shootout is a little bit like that game on Sesame Street, where there are four things on the screen to look at, but one of them doesn't belong. And that bike is the Africa Twin. While it weighs in at 511 pounds, right between KTM's claimed 507 pounds and the BMW's 525 pounds, it feels like a much lighter bike. The very first impression you get from the Africa Twin when you throw your leg over it is that you're on a big dual sport bike, not a heavy adventure bike. Designated the CF1000L, the Africa Twin is narrow in the middle of the saddle, but somehow manages to be comfortable for all-day riding. The Africa Twin hides its weight really well, and it doesn't take more than 50 feet of riding to get your head swiveling to the side of the road in search of some dirt to rip around on. Another thing that sets the Africa Twin apart from the BMW, KTM, and Ducati is the wheel size. Those bikes sport 19-inch front and 17-inch rear wheels, while the Africa Twin's 21-inch front and 18-inch rear give it an automatic off-road advantage. The larger front wheel does cost the Africa Twin a bit in the road handling department, but they sure do roll over lumps and bumps a lot better. And in the soft stuff, no other bike in our shootout came close to matching the Africa Twin's ability to track through sand, mud, or gravel. In the power department, the Africa Twin falls far behind the competition in our test. The big dog in the pack is the Multistrada 1200 Enduro, which cranks out an impressive 160 horsepower at 9,500 RPM, with a max torque of 100.3 foot-pounds at 7,500 RPM. A close second in the power competition is the KTM 1190 Adventure, which lays down 150 horsepower at 9,500 RPM and 92.2 foot-pounds at 8 grand on the tack. The BMW R1200 GS comes up a little bit shorter on the power, delivering 125 ponies at 7,750 RPM, matching the KTM's torque of 92 foot-pounds, but lower down the tack range at 6,500 RPM. By comparison, the Africa Twin is a distant fourth in the power department, offering up only 93.9 horsepower at 7,500 RPM and 61 foot-pounds of torque at 5,750 RPM. Believe it or not, that doesn't matter, especially when you consider that the Africa Twin is made to be an off-road, enthusiasts, and touring machine. The fact is that the BMW, KTM, and Ducati all dial down the horsepower when set to off-road riding modes. So, unless we're talking about professional rally racers, I'd wager that most of us couldn't even handle more than 100 horsepower on the dirt. While all of the machines we tested were twins, the Honda is the only to feature a transverse parallel configuration. In my experience, parallel twins don't typically deliver the kind of grunt at the low end one expects from an off-road adventure machine, thanks to an ingenious 270-degree crank configuration that times and fires the pistons much more like a V-twin, but getting all the weight saving and balance benefits from a parallel twin configuration. Where the Africa Twin impresses with how well it hides its weight to inspire off-road confidence, the Ducati Multistrada Enduro delivers practically because of its size. It's the heaviest, tallest, and most powerful of all our contenders, which on paper is enough to set the hate alarms ringing on adventure motorcycle forums everywhere. Now, I'm no apologist for heavy motorcycles, but in the heavyweight category, the Ducati Multistrada 1200 Enduro is better than good. It's great. First of all, the Enduro isn't just a late model Multistrada with knobby tires. It's a hugely different bike with 266 different parts that tailor the machine wheel to wheel for the roads less traveled. Make no doubt about it, the size of the Enduro can be intimidating. From its 34.3-inch seat height to the massive front bodywork, which encloses a 7.9-gallon fuel tank, and towering ground clearance of over 8 inches. Everything about the Enduro is large. Being taller than average at 6 foot 3 inches, I'm not easily intimidated by the size of motorcycles, but the effort of lifting the Italian Bruiser off its side stand also reminded me that it's the heaviest of all our shootout bikes. At a claimed curb weight of 560 pounds, the Multistrada Enduro beats out the runner-up in the heavy department, the BMW, by 35 pounds. I can tell you firsthand that the Multistrada Enduro is hard to pick up. Anybody who rides adventure bikes for any period of time knows that they fall down, so I'm not embarrassed to admit that I dropped the Enduro while riding it in a gravelly river wash while trying to fly my camera drone, which is good because you get to see it right here, but bad because, as it turns out, flying drones and riding heavy motorcycles in gravelly washes don't mix. But if you're tall and have the leverage to hold the Enduro up, its size actually plays in its favor. It's tall and has great ergonomics that allow stand-up riding right out the box with tons of ground clearance and lots of control. From the first time you fire up the Multistrada's 1198cc Testastrada L-twin motor, the growl that comes out of its high-clearance exhaust pipe is pure Ducati. Its remapped fueling, combined with its lower 4315 final drive sprocket setup, deliver wads of immediate bottom-end power. And when the trail gets tough, what's even more impressive is the way the motor will tractor up technical dirt sections with minimal clutch feathering, while managing not to sacrifice its peppiness way up the revs during spirited road riding. Motor to motor, the Ducati beats out the BMW and the KTM dead to rights. And not just because of its power and torque either. The Ducati motor has an elastic range of power and an ability to chunk like a diesel up the hardest terrain, making it the superior off-road heavyweight. On the pavement, the Ducati's dirt-focused suspension costed a few points in the twisties for feeling a little too soft during hard carving. The big power that the Ducati's motor generates lets you stay on anyone's wheel if you have the bravery to grab the throttle, but late, hard braking can make for some exciting rear-wheel off-the-ground moments. Before BMW switched to the water boxer engine format in 2013, the GS's had the quality the Ducati does. The BMW's newer motor with its drive-by-wire throttle and lighter crank and flywheel have made the legendary tractor-like quality of the oil-air-cooled GS a distant memory. Now, BMW must know something about the actual habits of GS owners because their late model GSs seem to be taking on more of a road bias year after year. Of the 4 bikes we tested, the BMW was actually the best road performer. Only slightly ironic, since it was the original GS that created the entire adventure segment in the first place. The BMW GS is the only machine in our 4-way showdown to have an unconventional front telelever monoshock suspension. Having been a BMW GS rider for a long time, I never noticed how different it felt for riders coming off more traditional telescopic front ends. Regardless, once you trust that GS is going to turn for you, it corners on rails. The lighter crank and higher power over the older GS model make it shine in the twisty canyons and while making top-end freeway passes. In the drop it and have to pick it up department, the BMW actually has the edge over all the other bikes. Because of the GS's flat twin boxer engine configuration, a tipped bike never really lays on its side all the way. That combined with its low center of gravity makes it easier to get under and pick up. I found that the KTM 1190 Adventure was the second best road performer of our group. Its stiffer suspension and rev-happy engine make it a blast on the twisties. Off-road though, I gotta say, the KTM 1190 Adventure was meh. Surprising, right? Since off-road is what KTM is all about. For me, the ergonomics of the 1190 Adventure are all wrong. The bars are too narrow, and the motor feels super uncomfortable at the low end of the revs. The KTM does, however, come equipped with an impressive suite of traction control, cornering ABS, and engine control systems. While all 4 machines are highly capable, in the end, 2 stood out above the rest, and those were the new Africa Twin and the Ducati Multistrada 1200 Enduro. Putting the Africa Twin head-to-head with the others in our test highlights that it's really in a class of its own. The much anticipated reboot of the legendary Honda is something more like an ultra dual sport than a heavyweight adventure motorcycle. So if you're a dual sport rider looking for a capable long-haul touring machine and aren't obsessed about big horsepower and on-road performance, then the Africa Twin is the bike for you, especially considering Honda's massive worldwide dealer network and super attractive pricing, which starts at $12,999 for the standard transmission, or if you want to try out Honda's DTC automatic transmission, $13,699. On the heavyweight adventure bike side, it's Ducati's Multistrada 1200 Enduro that steals the show. Its nearly perfect motor that delivers the power you want at the bottom and the top of the rev range, off-road ready out-of-the-box ergonomics, and any terrain, high clearance suspension make the 1200 Enduro the hands-down best heavyweight adventure motorcycle you can buy. But of course, the premium bike has a premium price, with its base model starting MSRP $21,295.